Joy, and if you saw the title of today's video, we're going to go and talk a little more about this because I thought this was a subject that for me is personal and I think is important. And, on this channel, we're going to talk about some stuff that's off the beaten path. Obviously, I'll talk about, as you guys have seen, I'll talk about things that are kind of current and kind of trending, but my goal is always to give you guys different alternative or outside info that you're not going to get anywhere else. And also, I very much want to make sure and disseminate that information when it comes to health. Because you guys know, if you are new to my channel, you might not know this, but when I first put myself on YouTube and got fairly popular fairly quickly, I started talking about that I had mystery chronic health issues, and I opened up about exactly what it was like. It was very chaotic for me because I have very little help. Almost nobody in my real life believed me. And then I started gaining, I gained 170 pounds in 2 years in the camera. It was not fun. And now that I have a full health workup, so I left the internet, came back, I have a full, what we think is a full health workup, and we're still uncovering things. So I have a really interesting video coming up about another aspect of my health we're going to be looking at here soon. It's not as big a deal, but there are so many weird things in your body that can be connected, things you don't even think about. And that's the kind of information I want to bring you guys, because I feel like in our society, as I've said several times, I feel like 2020 has shown a big light to everybody that we don't put any emphasis in our society, or very little, on health. And we need to do that. You shouldn't have to go bankrupt because you are sick. And then on top of that, many of the times, especially if you're a woman, you're not believed. So I want to go into some of those details about that, and something that I found very interesting with Trisha Paytas. So, and then first things first, I'm wearing my rainbow shirt. I love this, guys. I think it's actually like a night shirt, but I don't care. Rainbow shirt day. I always love rainbow shirt day. And I'm really excited. You guys probably can't see it, but like, especially when I stand up. So this shirt, by the way, if I look over here for a second, it's a monitor. I don't like being one of those women that just constantly stares at myself, or you see women like, God love her, Trisha Paytas. You can tell that she's got that, her fold out camera, that she's got that, what do you call that? That playback, I guess, little monitor on her camera, and she's always looking at it and doing this. But so I try not to be that person, because I'm like, I try to just to kind of look at you guys and talk to you guys, right? Even though right now you guys don't know, I'm in a room by myself. Remember in the 80s, people think I'm crazy talking to an inanimate object, 80s and 90s. But this is actually a medium. I'm very excited because it's getting looser and looser. But I also got this shirt in a couple extra smalls. I found that we have a Victoria's Secret outlet now where I'm at, which, believe me, is like the high point of my everything. And these were like $5. So I've gotten not several, but I've gotten a few pieces of clothing over the last year where they were really beautiful pieces of clothing that I could kind of find, a lot of times I could find on sale, and I'm like, these are going to run out and I won't ever have access to it again. So I got them in extra smalls or extra smalls, because I was preparing for when I could look like myself again. I think I told y'all, I'm like, the obese life is not for me. As soon as we have a diagnosis and a plan, I'm on my way to, I'm going to be as militant as I can about getting my body back. I'm not there. 30 to 40 more pounds to go, and that is okay. But I am so happy to look like a person now. Because before, it wasn't just fat. Something looked wrong with me. It looked like somebody put an air tire in my butt. I didn't look like a person. So I'm very grateful to be able to just person again. Okay, so with all that aside, what am I going to talk about? So this is a follow-up to my other video about Trisha Paytas. If you haven't seen it, I've done a couple of them recently because I've been detailing what happened with her on the Frenemies show. We had Dr. Drew come on there, and in my opinion, I think Dr. Drew, many times, he will enable and placate to people as entertainers, but not be actually giving them the information they need to fix themselves, which, I think has issues with it. Even though there are certain areas where I like Dr. Drew, right? But I've always there are certain people though where I've always kind of had issues like in entertainment where it I feel like it skirts those lines of, like people have said this about Dr. Phil. Well, are you really helping people? Or are you exploiting them? I think with Dr. Phil, it's both. And I'm assuming with Dr. Drew, I think he's trying to help people. And I don't think, Dr. Phil isn't trying to do reality shows and stuff where, Drew Pinsky, Dr. Drew will do reality shows and really put all this stuff out about everybody in complete detail. We get a snapshot of it on Dr. Phil's show. But, there's always kind of that argument is how far is too far with some of this stuff with exploiting people and their issues. I don't really have a fully formed opinion yet, but I don't like some of what I saw, so go check out that video. Also, I have a couple other Trisha Paytas videos, stuff about her mental health that you're not gonna hear anywhere else. And information, I think, can help if you've got some similar issues to Trisha, or just in general, if you have, just being a woman. There's a lot of things that I'm breaking down and insights I'm trying to explain to people that I don't feel like I hear a lot of other places on YouTube. Not saying they're not, but it's not, the videos that get popular a lot of times go with a popular narrative. And in popular narrative, we're not always getting the alternative other sources of information. So I kind of like to throw a lot of those in there. As well, guys, I've done some series. I've done a couple videos on Onision. Go check those out and some of my insights there. I did a couple videos on Shane Dawson. Those are going to give you some alternative info and some context. Go check those out. I've done some stuff on cancel culture, Britney Spears, Princess Diana. Would love for you guys to see that. And if you like this kind of content, make sure and subscribe and hit notifications so you know when I upload. Also, give me a big thumbs up to support the channel. Comment, share this content with people you think could enjoy it. So, okay, I know it's a bit of an intro, but let's go ahead and get in the meat and bones. So, Trisha Paytas. Sometimes, excuse me, hold on. I needed to swallow and I didn't, so for some reason I cut off the S. Trisha Paytas. She has this show with Ethan of H3H3 called Frenemies, and I think a part of the fun of the show is that, and they've talked about this, the show is made up for them to kind of argue and jab at each other, right? And it's interesting because I think they both have some very interesting perspectives and they both have their different truths at different times. And there are times where I'm like, I agree with Ethan, I agree with Trisha. Trisha brings up some really interesting points sometimes that you don't get to hear often, and I always appreciate that. But then Ethan comes, with some solid wisdom with some stuff, and it's really interesting. The problem is they've had a few blow-ups and Trisha quit again. When I roll my eyes, I'm not rolling my eyes at Trisha like, ew, Trisha. I have a lot of respect for Trisha. Say what you want about Trisha, the fact that she's stayed on YouTube this long and has been so successful, she's incredibly intelligent. I don't care if you like her or hate her. And I think you have to respect that about her. And I have a lot of, I have a lot of respect for her, for what she has built on this platform. And I don't agree with everything she's done, and I don't think she would ask you to, and you don't have to, but you can still, like I've always said, I'm like, something can be horribly evil, but you can respect the intelligence it took, not the intent and the action, right? Because there's cunning and genius and all kinds of things, both good and bad. That's how I look at it. So I can respect that part and still, understand and not like the other stuff and not be into it, I guess. So with Trisha, what I detailed was, like I said, with Dr. Drew, I feel like Drew really placated some issues. And go check out that video in detail. But here's what I really want to get into. She started opening up about some health stuff, and I sat there and I gasped and I kind of giggled. I'm not laughing at her having a health issue. I was like, what's going on with the universe? There's so many things going on right now in popular culture I've actually been through, unlike a lot of people, and I can talk about. Is this kismet? Like, is this, what is this? She starts talking about an issue she's having where she has some inflammation around her neck area, and she thinks maybe it's a thyroid issue or a goiter issue. I want to talk about this because, and here's the thing. I'm sure Trisha Paytas is way too busy to sit here and watch this video. It's funny, a lot of YouTubers will say, I'm gonna, speak to Trisha Paytas directly on this, and they assume you know all their content. And it's always funny to me, especially when any creators do it, but especially smaller creators. So I always try to go into a video like this very unassumptive, and it's like, I'm no big deal. Why would somebody watch my content? You know what I mean? Like, I'm not that important. I'm not popular. And even if I was, who am I to assume? And even if somebody has seen a video, they're going to see other videos. I know she knows of me, and we've had, she's talked about me a little bit, and, we've had, I think it was a couple of private DMs. Nothing big, nothing, like I wouldn't say I'm like I'm not a friend by any means, but, we've had a handful of interactions, a small handful. So anyway, I want to talk about this because I've actually had this issue. In fact, a lot of people were mean to me about this issue. So let's go ahead. Let's take a look at what she has to say, and I want to give you guys some info.
I'm scared because everyone noticed like my neck, and then I went to go get my thing checked out on my neck, and they sent me to an EKG, get an EKG.
Oh yeah, because someone said you.
And I had shortness of breath, but I don't have COVID. Oh my god, what if I'm dying?
What happened? Well, no, you're not, unless you're on a bunch of drugs. He's saying you have to be super high, and then you stop breathing.
Oh yeah, no.
It's like you black out.
What do they see in your neck?
Yeah, someone saw something on your neck.
You remember you told me.
Yeah.
He's the one that pointed it out. So I went to a entomologist. I don't know, someone who specializes in neck, and I have like this goiter thing, and I got the blood work. I got like a scan, and then they sent me to a cardiologist, and I was like, "What?" I know. It was all last week. It was very intense.
There was comments saying Trisha has something on her neck. She should get it checked out.
I don't know if you can see. I mean, it's hard to see now.
I actually don't see it even.
He felt it. I went on Friday to a guy.
How did they see that?
He looked like Gene Wilder. I don't know. I couldn't see it either. Now I'm scared about it. I was like, what the hell?
Why the fuck?
Did you have one?
What?
Was it your thyroid?
Well, I just went like literally Thursday to get all my tests. I went to like the Quest lab place to get my blood work, and then I did my EKG. So I haven't gotten anything back. This was all like last week because they told me 2 weeks ago, and then I was like, I should get it checked out, I guess, which makes sense because I have like, anyways, this is a whole other thing, but I can't lose weight, and I've been like eating healthy and like working out, and then my acne. So I don't know. There may be something wrong with me, but.
Okay.
Well, we've established today that there is.
Just add it to the list.
Well,
Okay, so if you've ever heard rumors that say like I've had cancer or this or that, not true, but what I did have was a non-cancerous tumor. Guess where I had it? Right over here in a similar spot. In fact, if you ever I'm looking at the monitor now to see if I can show you, I might not be able to show you or tell you. You'd see it when my face is thinner. My face isn't fully symmetrical down here since that has happened near my, it's basically like chin, jaw, neck area right in here. So I want to tell you guys about that in case this happens to you, because it happened to me and I was very much in the dark. Now, I want to give a disclaimer. I am not a doctor. I am not giving medical advice. I am in no position and would never try to diagnose somebody. What I want to do is I want to give some information, because if this ever happens to you, or maybe you're going through this, I want to give you some leads to give to your doctor to see if they think this could fit, and this is something that could fit your situation if maybe you don't know what's going on. So it was early 2010? No, 2009, early 2009. I woke up one day feeling all this inflammation, and there was this bump here. It was like a bump sticking out of my neck, and it was very inflamed. And I was like, oh my gosh, what do I do? So I ended up going to, and I was in Seattle at the time. I was living in Seattle with a boyfriend, and so I went to the ER, and the ER gave me cephalexin, an antibiotic, and I took the antibiotic, and a lot of it went away. Not all of it, but a lot of it. And I was like, okay, is it an infection? And I asked them, and they're like, we don't know what it is. And they didn't test it. They just said, we're going to give you antibiotics. Okay. The problem is those antibiotics started making me very sick. Now, I'd always been told since I was little I was allergic to penicillin, but I don't remember any of, if I had a reaction, what it was. It was just one of those things in my history. I knew I'm always supposed to say penicillin. And I started having these blackout episodes. I started having issues with my body temperature. All of these very scary things started to happen, reminiscent of now. And I'd had some similar issues like that before, but this was on a level that was uncontrollable, and it got scary. But it seemed, and on top of that, I started not being able to go in the heat. I love to this day, I still love hot yoga. I can't do it anymore because of all my physical issues, because I can't, manage. Like, I'm one of those people, I rarely sweat, no matter how hard I'm working out. It always bothers me. I wish I could sweat. And again, it all ends up leading back to POTS, dysautonomia, histamines. But you guys have heard me talk about I'm having fevers, and there's nothing I can do, and nobody can help me. And I don't know if it's an infection. They'll like, it was weird in my situation. They could take, I think it was through my urine. I don't remember which one. I think it was urine. They would see, and my blood, they would see that I would have, my white cells were up, but it wasn't enough to be drastic. But with a fever, it's like, well, it could be a sign of infection, but we're not 100% sure, but nobody could figure anything out. Now we know, because I have dysautonomia, I have a sick nervous system. My nervous system that regulates my body temperature doesn't always work correctly. And so everything's misfiring and going crazy. So that's what we learned with that. But I was having all of these issues, and it got to the point where I moved back home to Kansas City. I was about to do several big marketing contracts. I was about to make some really big money. I was excited. And I remember I did a round, I did a round of hot yoga, as well as I did another round of antibiotics, because this thing got bigger and came back. It was on something called Clindamycin, and that's an antibiotic. And I started having horrible blackout spells and heart issues during and then specifically after that last session of hot yoga. I didn't do hot yoga for several years afterward. I did it one other time back in 2015 when we didn't know it was wrong, and I I was pretty much collapsing afterward. And it's not just I'm fainting, it's my heart's not working. There are all these things going on, and most people don't know what it is. Like when the EMTs come, they're never going to know what this is. You know what I mean? And they're not necessarily trained for stuff that's specialized. So I get it. But in my situation, having a health issue is very scary because I never know if A, anybody's going to be able to be around me that can communicate what's wrong with me to the medical professionals. And B, even if that's the case, are they going to know how to help me? Most of them don't. And a lot of what they'll do will actually make me worse. And that's just because of the issue that I have. It's no disrespect to them. I'm sure they're trying to help, right? But I was getting very sick. And I got to the point where I couldn't go out. It was the summer, it was June. Couldn't go outside. I was having blackout spells all the time. And I was having these heart episodes. Tried to go to the movies, had to leave. And I remember I had to leave within the opening, not opening credits, but like the previews. And nobody understood it. And I had to race home and have to my instinct was like rip off my clothes, get cold and lay on the floor, and didn't know what was wrong. Didn't know for a long time. So then we finally, and I didn't have insurance because who can afford insurance anymore? So I ended up going to, it's called Truman Hospital. It's downtown Kansas City. It's the place you go. They're fantastic if you get shot or stabbed. For anything else, it's a nightmare. Don't go there if you really have some type of issue outside of, a major trauma type of physical issue, right? So I go there, and it was also a ton of student doctors. So, you'd have one doctor and then you'd have all these student people around trying to figure things out. Nobody could figure out what was going on. They took a biopsy, they took some of the liquid out, couldn't figure it out. They're like, we don't think it's cancerous, which, thank goodness. They're like, but it's not quite infectious. But antibiotics did help, but it didn't get rid of it and it came back. I'm like, right, it doesn't make sense. And so they kept saying, this, we think, is they were calling it two different things, depending on where it was. They either called it an abscess or they would call it a non-cancerous tumor. They called it a tumor. So anyways, when I was there, they were like, yeah, well, this isn't a spot in your neck that's not safe because you have all these major vital nerves and things here, and we're afraid that whatever this is could rupture. So as a result, we're going to go ahead and just do surgery on you right now. And I was like, wait, what? I was very scared. And so we talked about it, and there was something innately in me that was, I think we're all kind of scared of surgery. Surgery is a big deal. You have to sign waivers for anesthetic saying if something happens to me, you're not liable to the hospital, right? And I'm already having these blackout episodes. I'm having all these episodes happen, and I'm very, very scared. And I'm like, okay, they're like, do you want us to put you to sleep completely, or do you want to be awake? Something in my gut said, be in control of this, be awake. Because they said they can numb the area and just open me. How? I don't. Now I sit back and I look and I'm like, how could y'all have done that safely? I don't know. But I'm telling you the process we went through. They're kind of like, well, we kind of numb it up like we do if you go to the dentist. That's kind of how it was explained to me. But so it's, what is it? There's local anesthetic, there's generalized anesthetic, there are these different names. This was literally 10 years ago. I was sick. I don't remember all the terms. But what they started doing was they started numbing this area. And all of a sudden, I felt my stomach drop to my feet, and they were putting shots in me. And by the way, I'm really good with shots. When I was younger, I was misdiagnosed with extreme asthma and allergies, and so I had to go get allergy shots and testing every 3 or 4 months. So I'd get typically between 160 to 200 shots within a half period of a day up and down my arms and legs. So they would take different allergens and they would do shots, like maybe 10 of them, and then they would wait 5 or 10 minutes and they would test how much my body reacts. I'm great with shots. You can stick me all day, every day. I don't care, right? But all of a sudden, as they were doing this, after about 30 seconds, I said, I'm going to pass out. And I start to pass out. So they did this thing. They took the chair. They put my legs above my head. They put the smelling salts under my nose. And they were just trying to keep me present. And I remember the couple, the doctor and one of the nurses that were there, they were 2 males. They were these angelic figures. And I'm like, am I going to die? What's going on? They're like, you're okay. And they were just really, like, I can almost cry at how kind they were to me. They had to, my boyfriend was there and they had to call my family. My family came in and they weren't very nice to me about it. But the doctors, and my boyfriend was obviously nice, and the doctors were really nice to me about it. I was so scared. I was so scared for my life. And it kept happening. I stayed there an additional 2 or 3 hours and they wouldn't let me leave, and I couldn't leave because I kept having blackout episodes. And I'd have to put my legs above my head, do the smelling salts. And then all of a sudden I'd get very, very sick to my stomach. whatever happened there set off about a summer of me barely being able to leave my house. If I had any big change in body temperature, I'd be having these episodes. It was incredibly scary. Nobody knew what was wrong. And we didn't end up doing the surgery. They said, okay, well, we don't know what to do with you. So I think it was at ear, nose, and throat at this point. We're going to send you to jaw. And I was like, wait, what? So they send me to the jaw clinic. And I did one more appointment there, which I really struggled. I ended up actually at that appointment afterward, I ended up in the ER because if I physically exerted myself too much, including just going to an appointment, that's what would happen. And this was a trauma unit. So they weren't real nice. They were screaming at me as I'm blacking out to get up. Like it was me. They were mean. Some of them are mean about, oh my gosh, some medical professionals. And look, I get they have protocols and I understand they get stressed, but like having so many people be mean to me when I was like, are these the last moments of my life? It's not fun. It is not a fun situation to be in. So I go to Jaw and Jaw's like, we're going to give you Clindamycin. And I was like, whoa. When I was on Clindamycin before, I got so sick, as I told you guys I was on it, I just stopped taking it. And I said, nope. Too sick, makes me too sick. And they're like, Cephalexin. I'm like, look, I've done the antibiotic route. It's not working. It's not helping. And if this is a non-cancerous tumor and you guys have said it's not infectious, then you guys have taken the biopsy. What am I supposed to do here? So they were like, well, that's all we know to do. Otherwise we can do surgery and we should probably do surgery. But at that point, I knew the reaction I had with anesthetic. And so I was very scared. And so, I had a follow-up appointment with the jaw people who just basically, they were like, well, it's either take the antibiotics or surgery. They didn't want to do anything else. And I knew both things were causing issues. And I didn't go to my appointment. I remember I was living with my sister, a family member, and she was very angry at me and acted like I was just this immature, irresponsible person who didn't want to fix this, and I'm just exaggerating my issues and trying to get attention. And that's been a very big narrative if I ever had something physically wrong with me in my life, even though my family knows my history of illness and being sick. They saw this big thing sticking out of my neck. It's not like I faked it. They're not nice people. They're not nice to me. And it's interesting because I've broken down, I think, their psychology over the years. And I think this happens to a lot of people. They'll be nice to certain people who mess up their own lives, like former drug addicts, or the people who are like downtrodden, or like deadbeat dads who are down on their luck. You know, those types of family or extended family who mess up their own lives. They'll take them in and be nice to them only for a short period of time. But with my health issues, there was no mercy, there was no kindness. And I was like, why is that? And I think I understood why. It's so messed up, the psychology. There's a power trip in helping people that are beneath you. There's a power trip, and those people can eventually get in a better position if they allow themselves. So the energy you extend to them is finite. Somebody who's just chronically sick, who needs help or even needs some type of caregiver help like I've been in before, that is just a selfless act of giving out of love, which they cannot do. They are too selfish to be able to do that. And that's what I've had to understand. So they have to demonize me worse than the drug addicts and the criminals. They have to, in their minds, they have to really be mean to me and put me down so that they can justify being mean to somebody who is sick of no fault of their own and genuinely just needs help. Because you're not going to really get anything back. You're just giving to that person. That's the psychology over the years I've broken down. And I don't know if this has ever happened to you and your family, but I think there are a lot of people with chronic illness who go through this. They need help, and their support really does that to them. And then on top of that, they isolated me. So they would spread rumors about me throughout the family. Oh, I'm just mentally ill. Oh, I'm making it up. I'm this horrible, terrible person. And so then that isolated me from everybody in the family because they decided to believe this narrative about me, even though they know out of most of the people in the family never had criminal past. I'm not this horrible, terrible person. Now, there are some things about me you can argue. I've been in bad relationships, but at the same time, that was as a result of having to learn things about relationships, and they knew the way I grew up. So it really shouldn't have been much of a surprise, right? So it's just, there's, again, a lot of weird stuff, a lot of things that don't make sense, but it was really difficult. And as well, my asthma got really bad during this period. Very, very scary. We never figured out what it was necessarily. All I knew is they said an abscess and a non-cancerous tumor. And those things, those diagnoses kind of go hand in hand. It's kind of ish the same thing. From my understanding, I'm not a doctor, I'm just telling you what I remember 10 years ago. And I was very scared. I even went to a dentist to see if they knew what it was, if it was some type of abscess related to teeth or wisdom teeth. They didn't know. And everybody just said, do surgery. I'm like, I can't. So I'm sitting there going, okay, doctors tell me if I don't get this thing that's not safe for me, that it could it could burst open at any time and end my life. I need to get a surgery. But if I get the surgery, that could end my life because something's going on with my body and nobody would listen to me. Nobody. Like having to blacking out that many times and having all those issues and people say you're anxious. Are you really? Like it was, and this is what happens with women. This is common for us. It's a little bit of a long story, but we're gonna get there. I'll tell you what I did to fix it and I'll tell you what I've learned over the years. So what I ended up doing was, first of all, I realized that the antibiotics really did a number on my gut. And so back then, what I started doing was I started treating myself for candida. I had thrush tongue. I had several issues of people who have candida overgrowth in their system. Candida is basically mold and fungus. Now, we all have candida to an extent within our guts and in our bodies, but that can, if you kill off good bacteria, that can go crazy and that can create issues. And I have mold allergies, very extreme mold allergies. So horrible combination. So I started treating myself for that, but I had to go very slowly because my body would react. So I started taking, I took garlic pills, olive leaf. Also for liver function, I took dandelion, milk thistle. Oh gosh, I had a whole regimen back then. Golden seal. I know there are others I'm going to forget. Podarco. But I started going the natural route. And then I started looking up different diets. And I found the Favor diet. So the Favor diet is fish, all meats, vegetables, eggs, brown rice. And you cut out as many carbohydrates and sugar as possible, but you have to taper off when you have the candida overgrowth. And that's what I did. And I got to where I was eating a lot of tilapia, a lot of salmon, and drinking a lot of water and trying to do that. Also during this time, this was during a time where I also gained a lot of weight. I think I gained like 50 pounds in a few months. So like, it's weird. My weight will go up and down with my health. And I couldn't get it off no matter what I did. And I was able to get off about 10, 15 pounds. And I started slowly recovering. And what I did the research on with the herbs in the diet. So the big thing with the herbs was I was trying to find herbs that were antimicrobial, antibacterial, anti-cancer, anti-tumor. Like there are all these different herbs that have medicinal properties. In fact, medicine comes from herbs. It comes from herbs and plants and trees and all this stuff in nature. And so the whole thing was, it was like, okay, whatever this is, because we don't fully know. Antibiotics have helped, but they don't say it's infectious. But there's something there, and there's something in there that could burst and hurt me. Like some of this, I wonder if I was just dealing with student doctors who really didn't understand exactly what they were doing because they didn't communicate everything really well to me. And there's a lot of things that still don't make sense. Now, I'm not a doctor, so maybe if one day I would love to sit down with a current doctor and go over this stuff from 10 years ago and try to sift through it. But I'll tell you what we've learned. So I did that diet. I did it for 3 months. No improvement. And I was so frustrated. But basically the whole thing was whatever this is, we need to throw different types of herbs and we need to get the right diet so that your body can just get rid of it. And I was very skeptical. And within 1 week, this thing shrunk and it never came back. Now, again, my face has been left a little bit uneven. I wish I had pictures from that time. I don't, unfortunately. I know there are some that exist somewhere. Well, they did at some point. I remember I had some on my Facebook page. And I think at some point I got irritated and just deleted a bunch of stuff from Facebook from my past. Stuff that, former boyfriends and former what I thought were friends that I don't want to deal with anymore. But when she said that, I gasped. And I was like, oh my gosh. I feel for her. In fact, here, there is still, and this is something I've been talking to my practitioner about and my current doctor, if you press here, it feels pressure, feels a little choking, and feels a little weird. It feels like there's something there. I'm not saying it's what it was before, but there's something kind of inflamed compared to this side. I don't feel it at all. And so here's what I found out in dealing with the chemistry of my body. Not only do I have POTS and dysautonomia, in talking to my practitioner, what we're seeing is we think that I'm estrogen dominant. So your body can be kind of more dominant in one hormone over the other. And the way you can, one big factor from that is going to be where you accumulate body fat. I accumulated on my hips and my thighs. And then I have all these, if you look up estrogen dominance, I have all these other markers that would indicate estrogen dominance. Like if you guys ever watched me on live streams and I laughed and I'm like, yeah, I really don't have any sex drive. I never have. It's kind of non-existent. I kind of feel like a big kid. It's not that I can't have it. It's just literally, I always talk about, when it comes to that sort of thing, I don't make myself happy, please infer. And nobody ever believes me. I'm like, I really don't need to. It's it's like that's not a part of me. That's low sex drive, part of estrogen dominance. That's also part of some of the other issues that I have. So there are a lot of things that like make sense. And in talking to my practitioner, she said people who are estrogen dominant, you have to be careful because they have issues with tumors. And I talked about the thing on my neck, and it was like, ding, ding, ding. That can be caused by being estrogen dominant. And I learned so much information on this. It's a very scary thing when you have things that are happening and you don't know what it is. Here's the other thing. I'm very glad I stuck to my guns about the anesthetic, and I'll tell you why. I've learned recently with my issues, anesthetic is very, very not safe for people like me. For people specifically like me. We really can't do anesthetic. So my gut instinct and my correlation between the anesthetic and the issues I was having was completely correct. And I thank God that I made that decision to stay awake, when they were going to do the surgery, because who knows what would have happened to me. And that's why I was having these episodes. I was having the dysautonomia and the POTS flare up because my nervous system can't handle the anesthetics and those types of things. The good news is in my situation, there is help. Now, regular doctors don't know this and they won't tell you. I have to go the alternative route because I'm somebody who has very little support in my life, and I have to figure this out or I'm not going to be here. So even when I got a diagnosis, my regular doctor, who I love dearly, said, with your regular diagnosis, you're never going to be fully functioning, but my practitioner got me functioning. She's got what I've got and she turned it around. She could even do a surgery now. And I'm getting there, and I'm confident that over the next months, I'll get there, and I'll continue to be able to lose weight, regulate. Y'all wouldn't believe me when I tell you I eat a half stick of butter and like a bucket of salt every day. Stuff that you're not supposed to do. And with all the weight that I had on me, wouldn't you think that would be water retention? Nope. Help me regulate. It's so weird. The body's so weird. But I wanted to bring this up in case this ever happens to you or people. These are some routes that I took when I had issues. And I'm not telling you that your issues are the same as mine. I'm not saying Trisha's issues are the same as mine. But when you have and she's saying they don't know what it is. She's trying to figure it out. When you have a mystery situation, it's very, very scary. And I wanted to give my experience of having something right here. Also, guys, could be lymph node related. That's another thing. Could also be thyroid related. And it's very interesting because I even remember being younger and I had a grandmother who pointed out that it looked like I had a goiter situation, but I couldn't see it and nobody else really saw it, but there was some inflammation here. So I wanted to point that out because it's very scary when you don't know. And here are some things that I've done. So anything where I've had a medical mystery that's been a really bad situation, I'll tell you guys and let you know. Another thing that I thought was really fascinating was one night, and this was maybe 5 or 6 years ago, I had seen this show. I was up late watching this show about medical mysteries, and this woman had same thing I did. Well, it was similar. All the things she talked about were similar. She got the surgery, and it completely messed her body up. She's like, she can't smile on this side. She gets these sweating episodes. She has all of these issues because where they did the surgery, this is what they had told me back then. I'm not a doctor. I'm just telling you what they told me. A lot of major arteries and nerves and things, and it really did a number on her nervous system. And considering I'm somebody with a sick nervous system, I thank God, even though everybody was against me. People were mean to me. My family was horrible. And, long story short, I don't speak to them as a result now. It's what it is. So I wanted just to point that out. And, if Trisha ever did see this video, I just hope it would help, just if she's trying to figure something out. Because at the end of the day, I just wish peace and health for everybody. So I'm sorry this was so long. It really wasn't intentional, but I hope you guys got some good information out of this if this ever happens to you or people that you know. Again, I'm not telling you what's wrong with you. I'm saying these are avenues to try if you are out of options. Because how many people right now, so many people have lost their insurance. They've never had insurance. They can't afford to go to specialists. I went to the people that are free downtown where it can take months to even get in, and it's student doctors who don't really know what they're doing. No disrespect to student doctors, they're learning. But for situations like mine, where I need very specialized help, it's not safe. And many people, unfortunately, can't afford to go to the doctor. So you have to come up with alternative different things to do. So I'm telling you, this was the alternative method. When I couldn't get surgery because my body wasn't working, and I didn't know what to do, this is what I did. And it was organic. I did the favor diet, and I did the herbs. I think, my opinion is, explore every possible medical route that you can. But if medicine gives up, why not look into the alternatives as long as they don't hurt you? That's it. Just make sure they're not, do your research and make sure that you have, your doctors or practitioner or people who can help guide you with the process. I kind of did this on my own mostly. And it was very, again, very, very scary, but I'm grateful to be alive. This has never been an issue. We're going to, in the coming months, we're going to go ahead and get it re-examined and re-looked at, just because I never did a follow-up with this area. I don't think there's necessarily an issue, but because it does feel a little weird, there's no bump. It's not, I don't think it's like inflamed or anything, but it just feels a little strange. Strange enough where I'm like, I would like to just, for my own peace of mind, get it checked out, especially if I've had a history of tumors and estrogen dominance. So that's just, and I'll keep you guys up to date. There were a couple things, you know, that I had to stop where I was in the process of trying to get things looked at because COVID season. All my doctors have said, unless you are almost about to leave the planet, you stay away from every medical building possible. And hey, that's fine with me. So there was a lot in my health journey we kind of had to stop. So there are things now where I'm being treated for, but there's some things, like I've been fully diagnosed with POTS, dysautonomia, the histamine disorder. For the most part, I've been diagnosed with that because of my levels. We want to do more testing on that, and we had to stop because of COVID. This is one thing we have to stop, but we're still treating me for these things. I wanted to get tests for estrogen. So some of these things we had to stop, but we're treating me as though I have these things, and things are getting so much better. It's so weird, even like my butt and my thighs. So that's typically where I can't lose weight no matter what I do, and that's the weight that's coming off the quickest, and it's because I'm doing things to, I'm doing things in alignment with the hormones in my body, my cycles, all of that. And if you saw my other video on Eugenia Cooney, go watch about weight and, you know, some people who have issues with their weight, and the weight loss industry system is only tailored to men's health and not women's. That's why many things don't work for us, but nobody believes us. They just tell us to eat less. How many times have we heard that? Eat less, because nobody believes it. They're like, you're just binge eating in the corner. And maybe some people are, but a lot of women are doing everything perfectly per what science says, and nothing's working. Well, we don't take women's health into account. So, okay, sorry, I talked way too much. I'm gonna shut up. All right, guys, take care, blessings. If you like this video, please subscribe and hit notifications. It helps the channel, and I would love to be able to get more content like this out to you. Give me a big thumbs up. Sound off in the comments. Tell me what you think. If you had issues like this, if you have friends, and let me know what the situation was. Because again, I think, you know, knowledge is power. The more stories and information that we can share about our health, especially when it's medical mysteries, the more we can help one another, because you never know, somebody could have the same thing that I had or that Trisha has. They could come across this and they could be completely lost with what to do, and they can make a list of things to give to a doctor to try, and they don't have to maybe go through what you or I've had to go through. And to me, that's like, I feel like the whole thing about suffering is, I feel like to me, suffering would be a waste if I didn't try to use my suffering to better myself or other people. And I hope I used it, or I'm still trying to use it to better myself, and now I want to give it back to as many people as possible to give them that knowledge so they don't have to go through what I went through, you know, to try to lessen that burden. So yeah. Okay, guys, take care to the next video. I'm sending everybody love. I'm wishing you guys blessings. Here's my hearts and hugs, mwah, and kisses. Bye, guys.